I have to be a little careful with today's video because the people I'm going to be talking about are almost certainly going to watch this video. Hi guys. For every writer, myself included, one of the biggest struggles is getting a good critique group. For example, I just want to point out that Brandon Sanderson has had the same critique group on a weekly meeting basis for like 15 years or something crazy now, possibly longer, and all of them at this point are highly successful. They're super useful. Unfortunately, they're just about the hardest thing for a writer to find, and that's for a variety of factors. That's just name a few. You can have disparate genres where you have like a hardcore romance reader is really going to struggle to edit and critique like a hard science fiction piece. Like sometimes your interests don't match up. Sometimes your skill level doesn't match up. The one person who is just obstinately terrible at writing can really screw up a group. Sometimes there are mental issues going on. That's just kind of what happens if you're recruiting online, where you'll just have someone a little deranged, and that can really fracture a group, particularly if the person organizing the group doesn't take action and say, "No, dude, you can't keep showing up with pornography in your thing. This is not acceptable." And if that person doesn't say that, well, guess what? The good writers will go find other places to share their work, or poach each other and start a new nucleus. Now, good luck. I'm going to tell you about another way for things to fail. And because that's actually the backstory to my fourth novel, 5 to 4. Which I just want to lead by saying that this is by far my smallest book. It's the shortest book. And I'll tell you a bit about what I was trying to do later, but like I price this accordingly because this is the product of a failed writing group. Now, I'm a competitive guy, actually, and one of the things that bugs the out of me are writing groups where you can only say positive things. I simply am not looking for people to praise my work if I'm in a critique group. I want accurate issues identified. That's what I'm looking for. And more importantly, it's like when everyone is positive about everything, if you read 5 stories and go, "Wow, these 2 and myself I think are actually quite good. This is terrible." And then you're in the critique group and everyone's getting like the same compliments. It gets in your head because you're just like, but that's trash. And that's good. Why are you saying that they're equivalent? You're also saying that I'm equivalent. You are giving me the same compliments that absolute garbage is getting. And for the record, that is actually how I'm talking about a different group, not this one. So I wanted to make a group that would be a bit more cutthroat. And everyone I recruited, I told them, this is going to be a competitive cutthroat thing. And one of the things was to keep people, honest, on their edge, involved with it, was we have to rate each other comparatively each week. Who had the best passage and why? The rating was supposed to be, whose story do you most want to continue based on what we have just read and reviewed today? And for the record, it's not like I just gathered people that liked my writing. I was not the overall winner of that, except for the fact that I completed my story and actually published it. In that regard, I won. I'm still waiting on a couple of other people to actually finish their stories and put that out there. You have good stories. What the fuck? Anyways, obviously, if you try and go for a competitive writing group, that's not for everyone. Especially when people realize that it really sucks to get rated the worst. Like, it really sucks if everyone says, "Hey, you dropped the ball there." And that can be a real blow to the ego. Even if you're not the worst, if you thought you put together something great, and people are just going, yeah, that'll take a bat to your kneecaps for sure. So it is fundamentally kind of a difficult group to be part of. So obviously there's going to be attrition, and then there's just the fact that, let's be real, most people who write aren't capable of sticking to a schedule. So even if you give them like a low commitment, like a couple chapters a month, they can still fail to find that time. And that doesn't mean that they're bad writers, but they are you should not pair them with faster, more aggressive writers like me. And I have the same argument about, like, say, a Dungeons and Dragons group, where it's not wrong if all you want to do is kick in the door and roll dice and kill monsters, compared to spending 2 hours role-playing shopping in town. Neither of those is wrong. You just shouldn't have them at the same table, because you are guaranteed to have someone unhappy at any given moment. Now, so the lesson learned here is I should have recruited a lot more people to account for basic attrition. Because, like any group that you're scheduling, the people at the start of the group that say, yeah, I'm interested, most of them are not going to stick around. And that's really the trouble with a writing group is, honestly, the better way is probably to grab one person you really gel with and you don't mind reading everything they write, and they don't mind reading everything you write. Once you've got that 2-person group, you make it a 3-person group. And then a 4, like, don't do like a 10-person invite. I've never even heard of that actually working out and ending up with all 10 people having a publishable book. That's just my experience, though. Now, this is the product of me submitting the chapters weekly on the schedule that the group was agreeing to. And on top of that, I knew going into it that it was going to be a short book. And one of the things I wanted to do was limit the amount of characters available and make it kind of like a tense paranormal murder plot with some horror elements to it. And I freaking failed, to be honest, because I went into this going, all right, it'll be 5 people. And I went, okay, it's 5 people who each have a clone. All right, so it's 5 people who each have a clone, and then there's the witches that did it, and then there's the monster, and then there's like, okay, so I need to frame it into like the normal world, and then they get pulled into the incident world where they have to like go through all this murderous, not terrifying nonsense so they can fight their way to survival and get back out to reality. So my lofty goal of writing a contained story completely dropped the ball. But that doesn't mean I think what I wrote here is bad. It is simply like, if you read this book after hearing that, you will see the decisions evolving as I went into it, where I knew what I had to do was one by one kill off characters. And let the characters try to figure out if the original or the clone was the one that got killed off. Because that's the tension I wanted to write about, as well as just, let me make the readers care about the characters, let me put them in the tension, let me put them in an interesting world, let's explore the rules of this system, scary monster, personal hangups and drama, relationships, typical plot arc story stuff, the stuff that people enjoy on a page-to-page level, in the idea of, it's supposed to be like a closed room murder fest, essentially. So I sort of succeeded on that, I would say. It was very interesting to write a story this short, and limiting the amount of characters in a story really is one of the only ways to guarantee that your story will be short. Because if you, say, are writing about a thief in a fantasy world that is pulling heists to, level up and pay off debts in the underworld, you can really start piling on subplots that you fail to pay off accidentally, where you end up introducing characters and allegiances and politics, and you have like an entire investigator who barely does anything except provide the resolution mechanic at the end. Every time a character gets introduced to a story, the reader kind of expects that there's supposed to be a point to that character being there, unless they're like clearly for that scene and gone. And if you can't give that character a goal, a conflict, and a resolution, it's going to feel shallow and incomplete. And you get around that by, say, limiting the amount of characters that you're even writing about. As I said, my character count kind of bloated in this, even for as short as it is. Like, the 3 witches are collectively basically one character. They're just showing, like, different faces and different attitudes. They're basically the same character, because they're supposed to be, like, the 3 Norns. Like, it's a pagan reference. And they vary along the spectrum of helpfulness and forthrightness. but they're basically the same character because they all have the same motivation, the same progress through the magic, and then they're all there together at the end. They're basically the same character, which I'm not exactly happy with, but I also recognize that if I had wanted to do more with them, the book would have had to be significantly longer. If I wanted to explore the main antagonist's backstory in full, I would have needed another 10 to 15,000 words for that to be satisfying, rather than simply like implied and the reader doesn't get the answer because the main character doesn't really get the answer. But that said, I'm still happy with this, and even though you'll never catch me say this is my best work, that's why it's my cheapest book for sale. Because it's a short book, you're going to have less time with this book for your money, and the price reflects that, and it reflects basically my opinion of the ability for this to impact you. It's basically just popcorn fiction. I went into the writing group going, hey, this would be an interesting exercise in construction for me as a writer. This is something I haven't normally done. I always allow my cast to get big and have like side characters that go nowhere. I should try writing a limited cast in a limited space where they're basically just in this set of rooms. It's these people and they have to figure it out. You know, there's a bit of elements of Saw in there, or the movie The Cube, or The Mist from Stephen King. I went into it to push my technical limits, and on that front, smashing success. But that's me reflecting on my growth as a writer. It's not exactly talking about the end quality here, but like I said, I'm a capitalist, and I priced that into the book, basically. So, as I typically say with this, if you pick this up and you read it, you're not going to feel like you wasted your money, but it's not my best book, so sue me? What do you want from me? Link will be in the description. And if you do try and start your own writers group, I wish you luck. It's pretty hard, actually. I have had so many bad experiences over the last decade. It's unreal. It takes one bad person, or possibly two if I'm the other bad person. Maybe, but good luck. Like and subscribe.